field goal in the final seconds. Now, they'll have to go to New Orleans, where they were blown out by 41 points back in November. But there's one big difference. Carson Wentz was the quarterback then. He was picked off 3 times. Well, Nick Foles is the QB now, and he's won his last 4 playoff starts. We're joined by FS1 NFL analyst DeAngelo Hall. Good to have you back.
Good morning.
Good to be back.
DeAngelo, all right, what shot do you give the Eagles against the Saints?
Well, I would normally say 0 in that place, but it's something about Nick Foles, man.
Thank you.
It is something about Nick Foles, and I don't want to battle hype. My cousin's a big Eagles fan, and I tell a story all the time how I gave away the Super Bowl tickets last year because Carson Wentz got hurt, and I said there's no way they'll make it, and they made it, and so he was out of Super Bowl tickets.
No way.
But, yeah, man, it's something about Nick Foles and what he's been doing this season, especially when he got in. Gosh, I mean, I give him probably a slim chance because it's crazy to play in that place. It is absolutely crazy. But to
Did
see,
you ever win a game there? You remember? Doubtful.
Yes, I have. I have.
Okay.
But not a playoff game, not a night game, not a primetime game.
Had everything.
Because that atmosphere just gets one of the craziest stadiums I've ever been in. But I mean, this Eagles team is playing very, very well. This defense, you think about how banged up their secondary is, but that front still able to get pressure and make those DBs' jobs easier. And they're making plays. Like, I'm watching dudes who weren't even supposed to be on the field making plays against #1 receivers. And so whenever I sit back and watch this Eagles team, it's just some magic that's going on with Nick Foles right now that gives me the just gives me the belief that they got a chance, man. It's when you believe, you can do anything.
Yeah. And that's what they do. They believe in Nick Foles. I give them a small chance also. I don't think it'll be a blowout. It's not going to be 48-7. I would be shocked if it's a score that lopsided again. The Eagles defense, this is not the same Eagles defense that went down there probably 6-7 weeks ago and gave up 48 points. They've been in playoff mode for about a month. Since they lost that game to the Cowboys, they knew they had to win out, and they have to have some good fortunes or some misfortunes from someone else. But I still think they're vulnerable in the back end. I thought Trubisky, although he didn't play bad, I thought he missed some throws that I don't believe Drew Brees will miss. The thing that concerns me about the Saints is that somehow teams always seem to find Eli Apple. So whomever he's guarding, is somehow the ball finds that receiver.
And he's not as bad as he looks.
Yeah, he is.
He's actually, no, Shannon, I'm sitting here watching the dude. He's in good position a lot of times. Like, I'm watching Julio Jones. I mean, he's right there.
It's like
the
a
guys
blind
are
dog.
just making plays.
What my grandpa used to say, he a blind dog in a meat house. You know what I'm saying? He can smell all the meat that's all around him, but he can't see nothing.
He ain't made a play.
So, yeah, he right there in position, but he ain't making not one play on the ball.
But and I know, cornerbacks can, you know this better than anybody, you can lose your confidence.
And he looks like, he looks like he
Yes.
doesn't have that confidence that
and
he
then
plays
you
with.
can't find the ball anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm not overly concerned that you look at the Saints, Skip, and they went through this, and I hate saying there's a correlation, but the year they won the Super Bowl, they had a swoon, and it just so happened, you look back at it, they played Tampa, they played Dallas, they played Carolina, they lost, and they won, and they lost, and blah, 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 all these things. But I just believe that they'll get back. Sean Payton has a week off to prepare and get this team ready to go. This is what last year was about, because they felt that they had unfinished business. They feel they were supposed to be heading on a plane, leaving Minnesota, going to Philly. So they feel this matchup is 1 year too late. So they want to rectify what they feel they could have, because Alvin Kamara said, man, we'd have beat the brakes off them. That's not what he said, but I'm paraphrasing. That they would have beaten Philly and they would have gone to the Super Bowl. So now they get a chance. I believe the game will be a lot closer, Skip. I believe but there is a small chance, because once you get into this one game, and in one game, anything can happen. But I say there's a 10% chance they win in New Orleans.
So what would happen if the Bears had opted that final regular season game against Minnesota just to mail it in? Just rest on your laurels.
They wouldn't be.
Guess what? There'd be no Eagles to deal with, right?
Crazy.
It's crazy. Things happen at the end of years where everything turns on its head, and all of a sudden the football gods decree that this team is going to do this. And all of a sudden St. Nick has got it going again, and we keep bringing this up, but I'm going to bring it up one more time. Chris Long created a shrine in his locker to St. Nick, and Fletcher Cox participated in it, and it showed you what that locker room thinks of him. Mm-hmm. They believe in him, and it's weird because his body language doesn't scream leader or alpha dog or he doesn't have the big, bad body language of a franchise quarterback. But I got to tell you, when it's time to make plays and make throws, he somehow reaches back and gets a little extra velocity. Like sometimes I think he has a sub-average arm, and then all of a sudden he made a couple of throws. That one to Alshon on 3rd and 15, he had some mustard on the ball.
Now, Skip, do you remember early in the season when Nick Foles was a starter and guys were like,
struggled.
well, we can't wait to get Carson back. Carson just has a little more energy. And now you get Nick Foles and they're like, we want Nick, we're sad Carson's hurt, but, Nick's going to bring that calming force that we need. And so it's kind of like, which one really works for them. But if Nick Foles gets this team to the Super Bowl, what offseason will they have in Philly?
I don't know. I'm going to say this one more time. I told this man this because he loves Carson Wentz. And I respect Carson Wentz's ability in a vacuum. Stronger arm than Nick Foles, better mobility athletic. When he's healthy, just a bigger, more strapping. He has more physicality. Nick Foles is 6'6", but he's willowy and he doesn't have any physicality to him. But when it's time to play, time to operate as a quarterback in this offense, Nick Foles is just better than Carson Wentz. He just is. I just see it. I see the plays made.
He is. And Nick Foles is how old? I mean,
Nick Foles can't be more than 29, 30.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking the way NFL quarterbacks are playing till they 40, it ain't a conversation I want to have as a general manager, but somebody's going to have this conversation like, hey, look, if Nick Foles gets us back to the promised land, is it worth saying, hey, Carson, got a couple years left on your deal, let's get something major for him?
I am giving St. Nick a better shot at New Orleans than you two are, because if I look at, on paper, these two football teams, I think it's pretty close between these two.
He got a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Huh?
He got a Hall of Fame quarterback.
In that building, he is virtually, he's never lost.
His gold jacket's hanging up with Shane.
I got that. But to your point about what happened when it was 48-7 at midseason, that was when they were flying the highest. And Carson Wentz was the quarterback, and he goes in there and throws for 156 yards and 3 interceptions. No touchdowns, 3 interceptions. They got wiped out. The yards were 546 for New Orleans to 196 for Philly. And the rush yards were 173 to 58. They got blown off that carpet. It was over
like that. That was the difference, is that you can't stop that run.
And let me tell you something. With the Saints, it's not going to be trying to run the ball down the Eagles' throats. Like, the Eagles faced some teams down the stretch that kind of played into their hands.
They did.
Especially you think about this Chicago team. The Chicago team didn't want to sit back and throw it all over the yard. They wanted to pound that running game at you, let Trubinsky get out the pocket, use his athleticism to make some plays. New Orleans is going to throw that ball all over the yard. All over the yard.
Okay.
And when we're talking about this struggling secondary, Drew's going to get that ball out of his hands and not give Fletcher Cox and Michael Bennett the chance to even rush him.
When was the last time Drew Brees looked like the Drew Brees we saw for the first 9 games? Dallas.
Yeah,
Dallas did a number on them psychologically. It was 13-10, obviously, at Jerry World, and they never quite got it back. They went to Tampa, and they kind of slugged it out with them, and then they pulled away 28-14 on a block punt. Remember that?
Yep.
Well, and then they went to Carolina and won 12-9, and then they played pretty well against Pittsburgh. Boy, it was dicey. It could have gone either way. And then they got to mail it in against Carolina. So they really haven't played that Drew Brees, high-flying New Orleans football since pre-Dallas. It's been a long time. They lost their way at the end of the year. So, again, Philly found its way, and it's going to find its way down to New Orleans, and it just wouldn't shock me at all if Nick Foles pulls this off.
It would shock me just because I just think the Saints are just a more superior team than Philly is. I think the only thing that has me like, man, Philly has a chance is because of that Nick Foles element that you just, like, you don't know what to expect.
And just remember, they are protecting him at a high level because they did a really good job.
I mean, you think about Peters is probably going to go to the Hall of Fame. Lane Johnson is a former All-Pro Pro Bowl player. Barrett Brooks is their current
Barrett
Pro
Brooks
Bowl.
is a Pro Bowl player.
Yeah, All-Pro player. So Kelsey is an All-Pro.
Yeah, Kelsey's
so it's not
All-Pro.
like I mean, they make it seem like they got some walk-ons at offensive line. They got a very good.
On paper, that could be as good as there is, right?
And they're finally starting to play well together.
Okay.
That's the thing. If you look at the teams that's in the playoffs, for the most part, all of them got really good offensive lines. You look at Indy. You look at Kansas City.
Okay.
You look at New Orleans. You look at Philly. The teams that are here, they got good offensive lines now. They protect.
Think about this. Alshon, Aguilar, Golden Tate, Zach Ertz. That's pretty good, man.
No,
That's some firepower, right?
It's a lot
Now,
of
they
firepower.
don't run the ball very well. They couldn't run a lick yesterday, but it didn't seem to matter.
Well, they better find some answers to Michael Thomas. Because he's going to get like 100 targets.
Okay, we've been saying all year, it's sort of him or bust, right?
Kamara out the backfield, too. They got some ways, you know, and that New Orleans offense, they don't really care who the guy is besides Michael Thomas, but they'll throw all these other guys in and run on different routes. And, you know, Ted Ginn's back, the speed guy.
That's the thing.
Smith.
Because he has the ability. They didn't face him last time, Skip.
Yeah.
So he has the ability to take the top off the coverage, and he's very good in the return game.
But that's what makes that offense scary. It doesn't matter.
No, stop hoping. No, it would not be nothing.
If the NFC
No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. No, stop trying to speak it into existence.
Philly and
No, it's not going to happen.
Could you see that?
No, I can't see it.
I can't see it.
I'm taking my, you know what? I'm about to
Saints and
take
the
my
Rams.
glasses off. I can't see nothing.
Losing to give you that, but
He doesn't want to think about
we'll
it.
see.
That's all he want to do. You try to be
That'll
slick.
be
You better put your glasses back on because you're going to see something.
You try to speak it into
He got
existence.
a lot of things
Yeah,
going
that's
on
what he
for
want to
that
do.
to
Speak it
happen.
into
You gotta
existence.
have
It ain't
five
happening.
things.
Speaking it
Not a
into
lot of
existence.
things.
The Rams got to
Two things.
lose. The Saints got to lose.
Okay, that's it. Period.
There
And
you
y'all
go.
got to win.
Simple. And so does Nick Foles.
On that note, are the Cowboys starting to look like a Super Bowl team? Let's
Y'all
get
go home.
D'Angelo's take on this.